CScIence.
Today on CScIence, we are talking about DNA and the emerging field of forensic genealogy, a new field that is really changing how police solve crimes. In the 1970s and 80s, California was terrorized by the Golden State Killer, a serial killer who was responsible for 13 murders, as well as hundreds of burglaries and rapes. And they never found who did it. That is, until last year, when they cracked the cold case using the new technology of forensic genealogy. Forensic genealogy uses DNA technology, so let's talk a bit about that first. DNA was first used by forensic scientists in the 1980s, and since then it has a huge impact on how we solve crime. And we all know what DNA analysis looks like because we see it on TV all the time.
This is a perfectly accurate DNA test. There's no way it can be wrong. It's not a match to the original hair.
I know. Michael Hayes is innocent.
What are we gonna do?
I need you to focus. We're gonna catch your killer.
How?
If I give you a sample of sawdust, could you match it to a type of tree?
Oh, yeah. I can do better than that. I can tell you the exact tree that it came from.
How?
DNA, Gibbs. It's in every living thing. Actually, DNA from a tree is very similar to human DNA.
Good. It's great.
You heard her. DNA analysis, or DNA fingerprinting, is the perfectly accurate test used to match blood, skin, or saliva found at a crime scene with that of a suspect. Now, in that NCIS episode, Abby said they got DNA from a hair. Let's give them the benefit of the doubt and said the hair still had the root attached, because that's actually the only way to currently extract DNA from hair. So DNA analysis is highly accurate. It can tell the difference between your spit and my spit. But Abby, our NCIS expert, also said that the DNA from a tree is very similar to that of a human. Is that true? To answer that, let's go to the font of all knowledge.
But Mr. McClure, what is DNA?
What the? Oh, hi, Billy. Let's find out together. DNA is God's recipe for making you. You take a dash of Dad, a pinch of Mom, then we bake for 9 months and... that's good, Billy.
Mr. McClure, what does DNA stand for?
Well, that is a very good question. DNA stands for deoxyribonucleic acid. It's a molecule that forms two chains that coil around each other to form what we call the double helix. It contains all the genetic instructions that make you, you, and me, me. Or a tree, a tree. While Abby is right that DNA is found in all living things, and the kind of DNA in trees is the same as the DNA in humans, because there is only one kind of DNA, there's very little chance of falsely accusing a banana of murder. This is because DNA fingerprinting looks at the differences in DNA between people. And while all humans share 99.9% of their DNA, that remaining 0.1% is enough to tell us all apart. Forensic scientists look at the types and the sequences of proteins in our DNA, represented here as a kind of barcode. Here we have a theoretical DNA profile from a crime scene compared to the DNA profiles of 3 suspects. It looks like suspect 2 might be in some trouble. Until recently, unless you had a sample of the suspect's DNA, it was not possible to get a match to the crime scene. A suspect's DNA might already be in a database if they'd already committed a crime. Police can ask a suspect for a sample, or they can get a sample by more sneaky methods.
Would you like a glass of water?
Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you.
Very sneaky. But now a lot of people are choosing to get DNA tests through websites like Ancestry.com and 23andMe to find out about their heritage and to track down long-lost relatives.
With 23andMe, you can discover where in the world your DNA comes from. You can even learn how you are connected to others by opting into 23andMe's DNA Relatives feature and connecting with people who share DNA with you. Now, there's only one thing left to do.
We get to spit.
A lot of people are spitting. But long-lost relatives are not the only ones using this information. Police are now using these DNA databases to help solve cold cases, including the Golden State Killer, a case that had been cold for over 40 years. Police had a frozen DNA sample from one of the Golden State Killer's crime scenes. They thawed it out, analysed it, and uploaded the results to one of the public DNA databases. And it was not a match. Yeah, that's right. The Golden State Killer was not stupid enough to upload his own DNA to this database. But the site did identify some people who were distant cousins of the killer based on their DNA. Using some old-fashioned genealogy methods, such as looking at birth certificates and marriage certificates, they were able to construct a family tree and work out who the killer might be. Let's use the Simpsons family tree as an example to understand how this method works. Let's say Homer steals a donut, but he leaves his DNA evidence on some donut crumbs that are recovered from the crime scene. Years later, one of Homer's distant cousins, David Bernstein, wonders about his ancestry. He does a spit test and uploads the results to one of the public DNA databases. Police now know that the suspect's DNA is similar to that of David, meaning they are probably related. So once they have constructed a family tree, they now have a list of suspects. That is, a list of people who are related to David. A list that includes Homer Simpson. Some of David's relatives were already dead when the crime was committed, and others were too young to have committed the crime many years before. Police also know that the DNA was from a male, so any female relatives can also be ruled out. This leaves them with a short list of possible donut thieves to focus all of their investigative efforts on. And this is how police finally caught up with the Golden State Killer, who was identified as Joseph James D'Angelo, now a retired policeman. He was arrested in April 2018 and is now awaiting trial. So forensic genealogy has revolutionised how DNA is used to solve crimes, and a whole lot of other cold cases are now being revisited using this technology. Okay, that is all from CScIence today, but we will see you next time.